Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is a snapshot review of the Vaughn V9 XP and the Vaughn V9, just standard Pro Carbon. Both of them are Pro Carbon catching gloves. I will go over the blocker in a separate video. So Vaughn does, something I really like about Vaughn is how they do 3 different gloves for their retail line every year. You have their V9, V9 XP, and then you have your SLR line. So the SLR2 line. All the gloves feel pretty different from each other. I think SLR is closer to this one. I think it's based on the same break angle. It feels a lot closer, in my opinion, to each other. This one is a totally different beast. Obviously, these aren't used. This is a snapshot review, so it's just talking about kind of the differences between the two, if there's any like significant upgrades. I reviewed a Pro Stock one of this last time, and not the retail version. So this one, obviously, we're talking about the retail one. So I guess let's jump in there. So I don't know exactly what the break angle they call on the V9 is. I couldn't find it on their website or in their what's it called? Product guide, catalog. There we go, catalog. But this feels closer to me to kind of like it's not a 5500 by all means, but it feels closer to that type of break angle. So like the E-Flex line, the 600 break for CCM, that's what this feels closest as. Doesn't feel similar to those gloves though. This one is, I think, a 60-degree break, and it feels really similar to CCM 590, so the Premier line stock. The other one would be similar to the JRZ glove I have, the Fusion, which is, again, very similar. So they're two very different options that you can get. Obviously, very different gloves. 2-piece cuff with that molded piece right here. This is a 1-piece cuff. But yeah, so that's kind of the basis of these. They're very different gloves, but you can always get them under the same line, which is a nice option Vaughn gives you. So I'm going to talk about the V8 glove, or sorry, the V9 glove first, just the standard Pro Carbon. It's an interest. So I got a chance to demo one of these and an SLR glove at like a demo day, and I hate this glove, to be honest. It's not that I don't like the closure. The closure feels pretty decent. And like the shape feels pretty decent. So my problem with this is it feels like too rounded. And maybe these break in to be like way flatter and I just don't know how to use it. But to me, like when I tried to catch pucks against my chest, it felt like I couldn't flatten the glove enough on there. And I was always holding something and trying to grab something that like I didn't have full control over. So it is, like I said, it is very sloped. So it does feel like things kind of funnel into there, but I never felt like I had control and knew where I was actually catching things with, or like smuggling things basically in my chest. Whereas this one, I find when I do try to do that, I can open it flat enough and it feels like a normal, like I know where it is and everything. So it was kind of odd in that sense. I almost felt like I had to hold it like this way instead of like actually cradling it with my body. So instead of going, say this is my body, instead of going like this and cradling against my body, I felt like I had to go like this and let it like kind of fall in. And I didn't like that. One of the reasons too, maybe this will show up, is when you do like flatten it, it kind of doesn't feel like it flattens all the way. Where I find with other gloves, it does feel like it flattens. Obviously it's not perfect, but it just feels that way to me. So this glove never really worked for me in that sense, and I always found it really awkward. I know some people love them. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't mean it's a bad glove. I'm just speaking of my experiences itself. The one thing I do notice about Vaughn gloves is, and it's more evident on the XP version, is for me, I can really feel the breaks of the glove. So I can feel where this part of the glove starts, I can feel where this part of the glove ends, and I can feel like this breakdown here. And specifically, you can feel like the foams and the segments of them when I close it like this. Now, one thing that I do is I jam my fingers into the glove, so my hand's pretty deep in there, so my palm break is like right there. So when I go like that, I can feel basically the seam under here, and not the stitching here, but like the materials and like what makes up this part of the glove. I can feel it bending onto my hand and pushing into my fingers, and it's really uncomfortable to me. I'm going to talk about that more on the XP. But I find it's kind of Vaughn's design, and I'm curious to see if you went to a Pro Palm, if that kind of flattens out because there's more padding there or what. But I gave both of these gloves to multiple people just to try on and to like look for that. And all of them said the same thing, that they did feel that. So when we open up this glove, I really like Vaughn's adjustment system here. I think my JRZ is something similar, so you can tighten it from both sides. It's a good design. It lets you make it pretty customizable in that sense. Nice sure grip for the like kind of cuff padding. This sure grip does feel nicer than like some of the CCM ones I've used recently. It does feel like it's more texture. I don't know if it's a different material or not, but it does feel like it has more texture to it. And I found the CCM ones get like sloppy when they're more wet. This one, from my experience, when it's more textured, doesn't feel like that really. And you have a single backhand adjustment right there. So the part I'm talking about for like you can feel the brake angles. Okay, so it's basically right here. And I can, like when you close that, I can kind of feel those pieces. So there's like one right there, and then there's one right here. And you can feel those pieces on my hand when you close it, and it's pretty uncomfortable to me. And it's not that I would ever buy this glove because it doesn't work from, like, it's not the angle and stuff, the shape of it doesn't work for me. But that just is something that's really odd, and it's like really uncomfortable. But that's not the angle specifically, because it happens on the other glove. And the thing I notice is like if you push like this, you can definitely feel it right there. So instead of just closing normally, if you like push it down, I tried this with my other gloves and you can't. So it's weird, but it's something, again, I wanted to point out because it's something I noticed, and specifically on Vaughn gloves. So padding on these, I'll say, I don't think Vaughn does adequate enough padding for their retail gloves. I mentioned that on CCM gloves in the past. I think the Axis has improved on that, but Vaughn, I think, is pretty bad at that for the game readies. And Vaughn lovers are going to tell me I'm wrong, just like the chest protector. But my experience with I had a 5500 glove, and the padding was just brutal. And I played against NHL guys at the one time, and I thought I broke my hand. This is like, I don't know how people would use it, the game readies, because you can feel everything through it. So it's just the stock one. Like I can feel when you push that with your fingers, and it just doesn't feel padded enough like this. And I can't imagine a puck. The shock shield part covers here, which does feel like it would do a decent job on both parts, but this palm section right here just doesn't have that, so it's a bit iffy for me. But again, I never use this on ice, but I'm just going by my past experience with Vaughn gloves. So yeah, this one, it's the nice thing about Vaughn is, one, that they offer 3 gloves on retail, and 2, they make all their old gloves. So if you want like a V2 glove, which I almost bought one because I love one I had before. If you want that, they'll make it for you. It costs a lot of money, but they'll do it. Like Hunter Miska, I think in the AHL, I think that's his name. He wears a V2 glove, and he was on like their podcast and kind of talked about it a bit. I love that glove. I loved how it felt. I was like really close to ordering one, and then I couldn't justify it without wearing it again more recently for how much it cost, so I backed out of that. But so next we're looking at the XP, and the XP is obviously totally different. I really like this brake angle, and I really liked how the Pro return version I had that was made for Martin Jones, I loved that glove. I felt like I caught really well with it. It felt really good on my hands. I didn't think it was protective enough, and I think it was a Pro Palm. And I say that because I never felt this stuff in the fingers like I did on that glove that I do this glove. So I think it was padded more, but it wasn't padded enough. I still felt too many shots through it that I'd prefer. And when I say that, again, people are going to say, well, you should feel shots. I can use my Genetic 4 glove that's a Pro Palm and closes better than these do, and I don't feel shots. Same with the Optic 2. So it's like I'm comparing it against other gloves on the market with close similarly and have more protections. That's what I'm going at. It's not just like, oh, I don't want to feel this, which I don't, but there's comparables out there, and I'm not reaching for something that doesn't exist. because it does. So one thing I find interesting about this one piece cuff is that it's not super stiff. So you can feel the padding back here. And most cuffs like this, so you have the JRZ and you have the CCM Axis and the old Bauer, so the 1X, like this wouldn't flex at all, but this does. So it's pretty interesting to me. So I'm curious about how much plastic is being used in here and how much it's just a foam, or if it's just carbon and that's why it's bending. But it's just interesting to me that that's a thing and how thick this is. And here is the closure of this one. And it closes pretty good out of the box. And like I said, I really love how that feels and closes, and I love the shape of it. Again, I can cradle fine with that, but I can feel this piece even worse on this glove, like considerably worse. And like that, I can feel basically all right here, going right into it's more so here, but I can feel it going into my fingers and like jabbing in, and it's basically going right here. So if I don't shove my hand all the way in, so if I wear it with my fingers basically wrapping around here, not my palm, it feels way better because I can't really feel that as much. And then that moves to about right here, and I can still notice it, but it's not like annoying. Whereas if I go in there, it's annoying. So maybe this glove just doesn't work for me in terms of the hand positioning and how your fingers fit into the glove. But I love the break angle, but that's just not comfortable to me. Again, when I wore the Jones, which was a V8 one of this, and I think it was a Pro Palm, I never felt that. So if that was like the only difference you'd have to make, I'd be like kind of considering it. I really like this glove, and it's since CCM before you couldn't get a 590 made in Canada. Now with Lefebvre existing, you can. But this is a really good option for it, and like I really like the feel of this glove in terms of like the break angle and stuff like that. We'll open it up just to show you the differences. And so this backhand is very different than the other one in my opinion. So you open it up there, you have your sure grip right there, padded palm right here. The one thing I will criticize about Vaughn is that they don't use this is comfortable, but it's not super plush and padded like some other brands are. Now like Bauer, and I think even the new CCM is really nice. This one is just pretty standard materials all throughout, and you have your sure grip in there. So yeah, so when you can push on it, you kind of feel that edge. And again, I can feel it like right here when my hand's all the way in, and then when I slide my hand out a bit, it feels a bit better, but it's still kind of awkward for me. And it's not super comfortable. But I do really like the break angle, and it's a glove that like I'd be very tempted to get because I like that break angle. I would definitely go Pro Palm at minimal. Because I don't think these are protective enough out of the box. I'm sure, again, the Vaughn people will say that theirs is fine, but from my experience, that wasn't the case. But I really like the shape of this glove, and I'm really like what Vaughn does with their 3 different gloves. It gives a lot of options. So that is it for the videos on the V9 catching gloves. Just snapshot reviews. I don't have the ability to use these on the ice because I borrowed these from a store. And I have no hockey in my area right now anyway, so I wouldn't be able to do it. But I can't take these shots with these in the basement because, like the Warrior one, because again, these aren't mine. But yeah, snapshot review. I didn't see huge changes between these and the previous versions. I couldn't tell anything. Couldn't grab a V8 of each or any of them to really compare them, but I didn't see a big change there. The big change for these gloves, the Vaughn lot, like V9 line, is the pads. The pads are totally, the pads are upgraded because of strapping and the sliding surface, but there wasn't a huge change there, and they're pretty similar to what they were before. So just like, I didn't honestly notice a difference. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it was helpful. If you want to see me review a piece of equipment, or if you want me, or if you buy a piece of equipment because of one of my videos, please reach out to your manufacturers, let them know. Helps me get on their radar so I can do more reviews like this and actually use the stuff, and hopefully get it a little earlier than when it comes out, just so it's more relevant. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.